Uh, Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Asfar and I'm the program manager at National Incubation Center, Karachi. Uh, we are here for another edition of NIC Live. We have today Ali Samir Osman. He's a partner at Kaizen Consulting Group and director at Jaffam Management Consultancy. Samir is an old friend of the startup ecosystem of Pakistan. He's very active with GPLE Ventures, uh, startup mentoring. He's also a mentor at the National Incubation Center Karachi. And समीर जो हैं वो बहुत सारा हेल्प करते हैं स्टार्टअप्स को एडवाइस करते हैं अर्ली स्टेज भी एंड आगे की भी उनकी ग्रोथ स्टेज पे सो टुडेज टॉपिक इज एक्सटेंडिंग द रनवे और स्टार्टअप शुड कंसिडर ड्यूरिंग COVID-19 and beyond. So without further delay, I'll now formally welcome Samir and I'll ask him to start his presentation and his discussion. Hello, Samir. कैसे हैं?
Hello,
How's
sir.
everything?
Good morning. Everything is well.
Morning.
Thank you very much.
Great, sir.
Thank you for the really kind introduction. It's been a few years now that both of us know each other from, I believe, pre-NIC to the NIC program and beyond. Always great participating at events with you and trying to help this ecosystem grow in any way it can. Just to start this session off, I know there are a bunch of startups and founders tuning in or part of the NIC that I've worked with before or had sessions with or met them at demo days with investor sessions and so on. But for those of you who I've never met, my name is Ali Samir Osman. I was the former CEO of TPLE Ventures, one of the first structured corporate venture capital companies in Pakistan, looking at the early stage ecosystem. The role came about as a result of me being group head of strategy for the TPL Corp, which is a group of companies focused on technology-based innovation across the industries they operate in. And these are namely vehicle tracking, fleet telematics, insurance, digital mapping, and property, to name a few. A little bit about myself and my experience and what kind of led me here is I've been in Pakistan or working in Pakistan for the last 9-10 years. And over this time, have worked on many startups myself, as well as advised and helped investors and friends who have launched businesses. And some of these have proven to be successful in terms of either successful exits or running businesses today that are fairly profitable. And because I'm too early for the Pakistan ecosystem, there were no investors required, and therefore there were no investors in the market, and therefore they required investment to scale or to grow or to finance the model, so to speak, was not available. And through that kind of trial and error and actually rolling up my sleeves and getting hands dirty, I've been very familiar with the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And then professionally, in terms of career and a day job, I started in Pakistan with a $100 million impact investment company, setting up large businesses focusing on social impact in healthcare and education. Part of that was leading strategy and program development for a large vocational training institute and launching an entrepreneurship program through that, which involved a lot of mentorship with the Indus Entrepreneur Network, Injaz Pakistan, and setting that up and working with the early team and the board. For those of you who don't know, Injaz is Junior Achievement Worldwide in Pakistan. And regularly working with the startup ecosystem for now, probably 7-8 years, easily. Currently, I've left my role at TPL a few months ago. I'm based in Dubai, out in the region, and I'm working at a Kaizen or as a partner at Kaizen Consulting Group, which focuses on business coaching and advisory services for SMEs primarily. And obviously this includes startups as well. And I'm consulting through Jaffam Management Consultancy, which is a company that I'm a director at and kind of lead some of the consulting practice, where we work with startups in particular and SMEs, and at times large companies, everything from venture building, new product development, technology transformation projects in consulting, helping startups raise funding many a times, understanding or working with the founder to really upskill or build their pitch decks or help them through the storyboard so that they're investor ready. And a lot of times what we see out of Pakistan is the models just aren't there. And by models not being there, I mean they're not granular enough. Their growth is not linked to cost drivers. The valuations are just about a number. And it's not the fault the founder, right? Because they get conflicting information. They're told not to give too much equity at the start. They just inflate valuations. It's the same story to build their value proposition for investors to better understand why they're doing this and how this could grow to be the next big thing very quickly. Because it's important to understand investor mindsets are different. Private investors view early stage venture capital investment very differently from a venture capital fund like Sarmaya Car or I2I or Blackstone Ventures for that matter. So that's what I do. That's a little bit about myself. Today's session had a chat with Asfar and the NIC team, and we felt that there's a lot of topics that we could cover. I'm exploring potentially doing a session with a legal partner of mine, very experienced in private equity, on various structures for fundraising. And we're kind of putting that material together right now. So I'm sure NIC at some stage in the next 2-3 weeks will share a session related to that. But this particular session, the focus is the difficult time we find ourselves in, right? Everyone is in a state of panic or fear. There's businesses that have suffered tremendously very quickly over the last couple of months. There's people who've lost their livelihoods and their jobs overnight. And this economic environment, uncertainty, fear, restriction on movement, restriction on operations due to health factors and sanitation has completely changed the game in terms of how businesses need to operate, can operate, and are restricted to operate. And that has put a lot of pressure on all sizes of businesses in figuring out the optimized way to work and last longer without their cash flows burning out and without them running out of money. This particularly applies to startups because a very small thing can affect them greatly. And if they're not prepared for it and they're not managing it properly, it could spell their downfall very, very quickly, rapidly. So after having a discussion with us where we decided that, what are things that we can talk about that would help founders and help businesses just think about very, granularly about their business, that they could go back from this session, look through it, and see if any of these areas or concepts or focus areas can help them. Now, some people obviously would be listening to this and some of the points I brought up and say, yaar, ye to bahut aasan cheez hai, kuch naya nahi bataya Ali ne. But the reality is, a lot of people in a sense of panic, hum sochte hi nahi. We don't focus on these very basic things. And because we're just constantly struggling or taking it a day at a time. And a day at a time means we're not looking at the whole, but rather at the problem right in front of us. And by taking a step back and just going over some of these very basic, to some people, very basic concepts, it allows a founder to really think through his business, his plan, how he's approaching it, and how this is going to impact the business moving forward. So the idea is I'm going to share some points with you related to the topic of extending your runway. Now, for those who've raised funding and dealt with investors and venture capitalists, and especially those who've maybe tuned into some of the other, panel discussions that we've seen in this kind of virtual panel setting. So there was a very good panel with Pakistan's local investors a few days ago, hosted by Nest. I'm not sure how many of you saw it. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out, because they brought up some very, very good points regarding the investor approach in Pakistan to the ecosystem and what it means for funding available to companies. And it consisted of Faraz Khan of Seed Ventures, Misbah from I2I, Faisal from Laxon VC, and Rabil from Sarmayakar, right? So these are 4 very engaged investors have been as part of the ecosystem. And they brought up a very clear point, which is important for startups to understand, that most investors now are either going to look inwards into their own portfolio that they've invested in to see how they can support them further and who needs bridge financing and needs that extension to be able to survive past this environment, which could last 6 months of COVID-19 to 18 months of COVID-19. Nobody knows. And there will be a small part that they would deploy externally. So hence they're looking for deal flow and they're looking for startups and they're looking for opportunities, but they're very careful about those opportunities. They're really looking for what could go beyond this period. What is the new normal after COVID-19? What are the industries that they want to focus on, that they believe and have conviction that could scale and grow and actually give them a return for their fund? So if it was tougher with Pakistan risk before COVID-19, raising funding has become even tougher now. And hence, extending the runway means how long can you give your business before it desperately needs a cash injection, otherwise you go out of business. So that's the topic today. It's just focusing on some key points, very basic, very simple. I'll try my best to keep it in a mix of English and Urdu. However, in all honesty, it's easier for me to explain some of these concepts in English. So bear with me if there's more English than Urdu. However, if anyone has any questions, want to ask me in Urdu or ask an answer specifically from me in Urdu to a question, just let me know. I'll be keeping my eye on the chat screen for any interesting questions, and happy to kind of have a more engaging dialogue with founders after covering about 5-6 points on 7-8 slides. That's about it. So that's for the introduction. Moving on, I'm just going to share my screen so that you guys can see the slides, and we can begin. So I just want to check, Asfar, if you or NIC could just confirm to me if the presentation is...
Yes, we can see the slides. Yes, we can see the slides.
So the topic. So the topic is extending the runway. What startups should do or consider during COVID-19 and beyond. Now, why do I say beyond? Because the fact is, even before COVID-19, these are facts that a lot of founders generally don't look at, focus at, pick up. And it's actually the good founders who really make it and raise a lot of capital and do well that are successfully looking at all of these areas that I'm going to talk about regularly, because it helps them manage their business and it helps them get to the next level. And it helps them control their cash, which is a critical component when growing your business or even surviving. Now, this is important also to understand that the world we live in today, not just related to COVID-19, but just even before COVID-19, we were seeing a lot of high inflated valuations globally and in Pakistan. We were seeing And now I'm talking from the investor point of view, right? Having come from that world. We're seeing a lot of high valuations. We're seeing a lot of convictions on the part of the founder thinking that their valuations were justified without any real justification to their business or in their model. And we were seeing people come with a very high capital intensive businesses with big cash burns without any clear paths to exit. Now, I am, for one, having come from that world and kind of observed a trend over the last couple of years globally, I'm of the opinion that that was going to change anyway, right? People were not looking at funding heavy cash burn businesses that at the very least did not have positive unit economics, a positive GP margin, and a clear plan and paths to profitability for that business. And that change was already kind of happening globally and slowly making its way to the Pakistan narrative. But I believe COVID has actually accelerated that narrative. And the fact that it's accelerated that narrative means more now more than ever, you need to double down on looking at your business, understanding where cost drivers are, how they operate, and how you can work and operate in the most leanest fashion possible while maintaining a structure that would help you support your growth. So where do we start? With the quote, as always. And the quote is, hope is not a strategy. So ghabrana nahi hai is not enough, right? We need to not worry, but we need to plan. I need to think and we need to know where we are. We need to know where we are, where our business is, and where our teams lie. We need to know what our business requires in order for us to be successful moving forward. So what is this slide in front of you? Right? This slide in front of you represents the topic of finance or financial management or measurements for your business as a black box, which is for most entrepreneurs like a maze. And I don't blame them, because most entrepreneurs see a drive, an opportunity, they want to pick up the pieces and they want to execute. But in making that transaction or facilitating that trade or solving that problem, oftentimes the details of financial matters and how it affects your business and how to use that information to measure your business and help it grow successfully, it kind of gets lost or ignored. And it's ignored not because they don't understand it, don't want to do it. It's ignored primarily because they don't. Many a times you fear the numbers in the finance and you say, I don't have 3 hours to spend going through that information. I need to make this deal happen, or I need to get this partner on board, I need to make this sale, or I need to get my money. Those are very core important things for the operations of your business. But if you don't have a plan and you don't base that plan and you don't measure your business and where your next step should be based on actual sound information your business is giving you, these two will never match up to the expectations that your investors or board or the stakeholders will want. So there's common mistakes that founders make, and we're going to touch upon some of these points and how to focus on them and how to start thinking about them, right? And again, I repeat, these are not new alien concepts. They're very basic concepts, but it's going back to the basics, especially in today's environment, that is going to help every business come out of this unfortunate period that we find ourselves. So, first one, the importance of budgeting. Right? There's many founders I've spent time with and worked on that either have never had a budget, never built a budget, or didn't see the need for a budget to be important enough. Because, like I said, they were focusing on the problem, on solving it, on making this deal happen, on making this trade happen. And guess what? As long as they applied the oldest rule in the book, which is, do I have more money coming in or booked against my revenue versus going out, then I'm good and my business is healthy. That approach may work when you're doing a very basic trade-oriented business with one product. But as your business gets more complicated, your teams grow, your factors increase, a budget helps a founder and a business have a plan and stick to that plan. And most businesses never stick to that plan because there's free market effects that affect your business. आपने बजट बनाया, आपने कहा भाई मेरी 100 चीजें बिकेंगी, वो नहीं बिकी, 50 बिकी, क्यों? मार्केटिंग डॉलर्स महंगी हो गई, लाख रुपए पे मैंने फेसबुक पे खर्चे थे, सोचा 10 लोग आएंगे, 4 लोग आए. These are very common things that happen with the business all the time because you cannot predict what's going to happen. But having a budget helps you plan to the sense that you get a good sense of what cost inputs would be required for you to drive a certain amount of revenue. And if you were to drive that certain amount of revenue, how would it come? Where would it come from? And how fast would it grow? And if you build that budget and have it along with you, and you record your actuals against what you had budgeted, all of a sudden you find yourself in an avenue where you're analyzing your business. You're looking at what you had planned and how you had planned to get there and what worked and what didn't work based on the actual information that's coming through. Very simple point. But for a lot of founders that I've spoken to, especially in Pakistan, that don't give this point enough importance, this is one very important area to start with when it comes to looking at your startup, especially today. If you don't have a budget for how much chai ki patti is being consumed in your office, then maybe you're spending too much money on chai ki patti in these times. And the only way you know that is if you set yourself a limit and see where you fall against that limit for each head and each expense and each input that's coming through your business. Everybody I know has heard of this statement, right? Cash is king. Everybody hears it. Cash is king. Cash is king. Cash is king. But what does that mean? Right? It means you need to give cash and cash flow so much importance in your business as it can make or break it. And you don't want, as a founder, as a CEO, as a finance lead, as a department head, to fall into a position of a cash cap. You don't want that. Because if you don't have the cash, then the cost-related activities that you budgeted that we just spoke about, you will not be able to pay for. And how will that affect the revenue side of your business? It will affect it considerably. So how do we kind of solve for this, right? A big part of once you've made your budget and you've done everything is to build realistic cash flow assumptions. And to make sure that reporting against those is as accurate and updated and frequent as possible. You need to have a control on knowing how much cash you have in the business, or how much cash your treasury has, so to speak. This allows you to keep your finger on the pulse of the business. So what does keeping your finger on the pulse of the business means, right? This is a human being. This is how you measure your pulse and your heart rate. So knowing how much cash you have tells you whether your heart is beating or not, because it drives every function within your business, from paying salaries to paying your bills to keeping the lights on. As you do this as a good practice, and there's many ways to do this, right? Cost saving impacts how much cash you have in hand, collection from your customers and people who owe you money determines how much cash you have. What day of the month you pay your salaries versus what day of the month you collect your checks determines how much cash you have, right? So everything affects how much cash you have. And that is all a critical component of your business. Now, as you get into the practice and habit of having a well-built or realistic cash flow assumptions on a monthly or even bi-weekly basis, you get into a better position in regards to the accuracy of your budgets and managing your business, right? Without managing this, your business comes to a standstill. So the practice of just recording and staying up to date and knowing how to manage that cash will allow you to create a cash contingency, right? And once you have enough cash and your positive cash flows and your being able to put some cash aside for a rainy day or for emergencies that come, whenever, God forbid, you end up falling into a tight cash flow situation because of unpredictable circumstances, you have a contingency to help you through that period. So keep a focus on that and figure out ways that you can increase your cash positivity. There are many startups that rely on a very heavy cash burn for growth. That's just their model, right? But if that's your model, then part of knowing your cash flow and building a realistic cash flow as an early stage startup is to know how much cash is required by the business to achieve that growth. And therefore, to plan your fundraising or timing of your fundraising in accordance with that, and to plan and time the amount you raise in accordance with that. Many people think it's very easy to raise. It's not. It's easy to raise if you got the right proposition explained to the right investor at the right time. But this may not be the right time. This is a very high risk time. People want to hold on to liquidity and cash. They don't want to just invest in anything. As a result of that, if you're a startup with a high cash burn model that needs to repeatedly raise investment, know this. It was hard raising investment in Pakistan before because of Pakistan risk, a lot of noise, and the underdevelopment of a lot of our industries or policies. It's going to be even harder now. So if you're a business that operates in this model, you need to figure out very quickly, A, how can you save as much cash as you can in your model? B, how much money you really need over not 1 year, but over 2 to 3 years, right? Over 24 to 36 months, what is that amount that you need that would keep you going? Because you may not be able to raise another round for 24 to 36 months. And that is the amount of fundraise that you should focus on, because it also takes a long time to raise. So once you do manage to close successfully, know that it's not going to be anytime soon before you get that next check. Because even raising that next round means you must show growth. You must show that your strategy has made some sort of an impact to that growth, and that spend that you've done has made some sort of impact to that growth. And only once you've kind of successfully proven that, would you be able to start on the journey of reaching out to new investors and then going through that entire due diligence process and negotiating your contracts and term sheets and so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. It's a very critical point. Know your receivables and be proactive about them. Why do I say this? I say this because this is a direct impact on the previous point we spoke on. Accounts receivable is a big factor. And unfortunately, in Pakistan, it's an even bigger factor. And this doesn't go for just startups and SMEs. This applies to large companies. I've seen in large companies and even in startups, I've after having invested in startups, that have seen this as a problem. It can break your business. अगर आपने कैश फ्लो सही प्लान किया, आपने बजट सही प्लान किया, आपने उस बजट के मुताबिक पैसे खर्चे हैं, आपने उस बजट के मुताबिक कस्टमर एक्विजिशन की कॉस्ट पे की है, वो फेसबुक पे आपने किया है क्योंकि आप डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म्स आर चार्जिंग इन डॉलर्स, तो वो डॉलर ट्रांजैक्शन हुई. 6 महीने का जो बजट था वो टोटली बदल गया क्योंकि आपने कहा कि भैया एक $40 का होगा, वो एक 60 पे चला गया, तो आपकी कॉस्ट ऑफ कस्टमर एक्विजिशन ज्यादा हो गई, तो आपकी जेब से ज्यादा पैसे गए उस कस्टमर को लेने के लिए. अब आप अपने पार्टनर के साथ बात कर रहे हैं, आपने क्लाइंट को कुछ चीज सेल की है, योर लीड जनरेशन मॉडल, व्हाटएवर इट इज, यू आर नॉट गेटिंग योर पेमेंट्स ऑन टाइम. आपके क्लाइंट ने कहा कि भाई मैं आपको 30 दिन में पेमेंट दूंगा, तो 30 दिन 60 दिन हो जाते हैं, 60 दिन 120 हो जाते हैं, 120 200 हो जाते हैं, 200 के बाद बंदा क्या करे? And in that situation, your cash flows go completely out of whack. And this happens in Pakistan all the time, right? Large corporates aren't paying their agencies on time. Agencies aren't paying their vendors on time. And it just ends up creating a terrible cycle, right? So what you need to do is take proactive measures to be on top of your accounts receivable, right? Make sure that customers or clients or anyone that you're collecting cash from or need to collect cash from, the committed and forecasted payment cycles that they work on, are they adhered to? And if they're not going to be adhered to, it is totally fine that if someone has been late in giving their payments to you, that you chase up with them a million times. because chasing up with them makes or breaks your business, not theirs. That's the responsibility every founder must take actively, proactively, for their accounts team, for their finance team, for their CFO, to chase after those clients and actually get their money back when they need it. Now, many times, large cycles don't work. So, and you find yourself in a position that you had a particular payment cycle and the customer, for whatever reason, it could be economic impact, right? Because everybody else is facing uncertain times from the economy. Certain industries over the last 2 years in Pakistan have been hit much harder than others. And therefore, that impact of just the economic climate could be the reason why your client's not paying, not because he doesn't want to pay. In these situations, it's good as part of the, if you're proactively looking at your accounts receivables, you know very early on as a founder where my money is not coming from or it's delayed. And it allows you to take proactive measures to reach out to the client, have an open and honest discussion with them, and plan for that collection in a new way. Now, this could be in the form of setting smaller and more frequent payment cycles, if that works best for the customer. Giving incentives on discounts to people who manage to pay within a particular device cycle and or pay on time, right? But never wait too long before requesting and then reminding the clients about their dues, right? So the only main advice here is follow up, follow up, follow up, and follow up again. And it's only once you do that, and if you realize that, look, I followed up 50 times, I've spoken to the owner of this business, it doesn't look, I'm not comfortable or confident enough that the money is going to come through in time, by all means, create a plan to help facilitate that collection. The next point we have is to seek growth efficiently. Now, what does this mean, right? So staying in the black or extending your runway is a function of, reducing outflow of cash as much as it's a function of increasing the inflow of cash, right? And increasing the inflow of sales. How do you grow your sales without spending too much money is the point that I'm trying to make. And there's many avenues to do that, right? So a great way to kind of extend that runway or to stay in the black, like I mentioned, is to find cost-effective areas for growth that will increase marginal revenue at a decreased marginal cost. So a great example of something like this is affiliate marketing or channel partnership models, both in a digital sense as well as a physical sense, right? Which rely more on cash paid as a success fee on sale than a cash spent upfront on trying to acquire a customer that may or may not come. It's an efficient avenue for growth. And in today's environment, having met and spoken with recently to a lot of businesses and worked with a lot of businesses, SMEs and startups alike, it's a channel a lot of people are pushing for, because they're running out of cash. They don't have money. They don't know where to get that growth. They need to keep growing if they're going to keep their numbers. Even if it's a small amount of growth, they need to keep it going. But they also need money coming in because older channels have now dropped. So where do they get that from? Because they don't have cash to spend. Their old channels are slightly decreasing in terms of revenue coming in. So where are they going to get that? How are they going to match up to where they were before to keep their house running? Very simple. There's partner channels you can set up. So I've actually helped a lot of startups recently identify that, this company or this startup is specializing in this core function, but your product or service can be a complement to that in terms of their customer base. So if they give access to their customer base and sell your product without giving you direct access to information to that customer base, you can reward them with a commission fee, but you spend zero money out of pocket to be able to access them. And that's a low cost model that we're seeing a lot of people really work together on. And it's in a lot of ways, not only is it, helping a lot of people kind of grow or get revenue coming in, it's also helping people rationalize the focus, the areas they really should be and need to focus on, and allowing businesses, startups, and SMEs to work better together, which is really what will in the long term help everyone thrive. Another example of efficient growth seeking is a focus on wallet sizing. So what is wallet sizing? Wallet sizing is the understanding or knowledge of how much a business can extract or earn from a particular customer A. And if you're earning $10, for example, from a particular customer A, what are the offers, the strategies, the communication, the incentives in terms of products and services or discounts that you can offer customer A to increase the size of the wallet they contribute to your business from a $10 contribution to a $20 contribution and then to a $50 contribution. So you're not spending any money out of pocket acquiring a new customer. You're figuring out how can I take out more money by adding more value to a particular customer that you have already spent money to acquire. Both of these are great avenues or opportunities for startups to, and businesses and founders to look inwards and see what works for them best. Maybe it's both, maybe it's one, and who are the right people they can work with in order to seek that efficient growth. And happy to discuss more, obviously, post some of these points if you want to really get into it. Something a lot of people end up doing is price competition. Right? They want to compete for price, and you're saying discount, 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 because you want to beat your competition, and you're constantly just killing your margin as you go. Don't do this. Maybe the other area, this is a don't do this slide, right? So that's the other areas I mentioned. If you start looking at your business and information in the manner that I'm asking you to or trying to advise you to, this would be the last resort. Everything else is the better idea. And the main reason for that is competing on price is a race to the bottom, right? The only winner in that situation is the customer. But everyone competing as a business is the loser. And over time, if the industry ends up pricing itself too low as a result of this competition or trying to reduce price to survive, it's very hard for that industry to recover after that. And for all intents and purposes, your margin on that product or service is gone. And we've seen this with large industries all over the world, right? Telcos are a great example of that. So I decided to throw in an acronym, and I don't even know what it's real, but it's DDDM, right? Data-driven decision making. Monitor your business metrics. Why do I talk about monitoring your business metrics? Because understanding your business metrics is a key function of how you take decisions in your business. There's millions of different metrics you can have. There's ratios, conversion rates, and all sorts of things that you can do to measure your business. But each business is different. Right? I would stick to the fact that monitoring your payment cycles and your and accounts receivable is a key metric to monitor and keep your finger on. And your cash flow is another very key metric to keep your finger on. But business to business, there's a lot of metrics that one can monitor to understand what are good business metrics for your business. And to constantly have either reports or, Google Analytics is an example of business metrics for a website, right? Or anything that's on Google. Why? Because it allows you to see what you put in, what the performance of that thing has been, and to adjust your decision making, be it for a campaign or for content that you put up on your website or anything else, so that you can improve on those metrics, because improving on those metrics improves your business, right? So it's only with the focus on this kind of metric driven decision making that you can focus on this magical word called unit economics and how to achieve positive unit economics or how to improve your contribution margin in a business. If you're not monitoring your unit economic level breakdown and you're not monitoring every input into your business which affects that, how will you ever become positive in a unit economic fashion or a contribution margin factor? You can't. You won't know. If you don't know and you're not measuring it, then you don't know. And if you don't know, can you even have that conversation with a potential investor that wants to know whether your business is contribution margin positive or not? So it's a critical component of every business to monitor those metrics. And part of that monitoring of metric is to know your costs, right? If you're monitoring your metrics and you know your costs and you know where your costs are coming from and what are the key cost drivers for this business that are requirements and what are cost drivers for this business that are just nice to have but aren't really adding any value to your business. If you know that, you're in a better position to control your costs. And guess what? Cost control and greatly impact your profitability. Cost control and greatly impact your cash flows that we mentioned right at the top of this. So keeping costs low as possible while running a lean yet optimized business is the sweet spot that you want your business to reach. So what does that mean? That means looking at your business today and seeing what are the various different cost efficiency exercises or initiatives that I can take that would impact my business. Now, a lot of businesses today, and I've seen this and you've seen this, are going straight to HR and they're slashing HR and they're firing people left, right, and center. I want to tell you that's not the first thing you should do. Rather, understand your business, understand your costs, and understand what is critical to your business and what is not. If you've hired correctly and spent time on your hiring process and your interview process to build the team you've built, then firing them overnight is a mistake. It's jumping the gun on trying to solve a problem that could be solved from other avenues first. Because it's hard to find the right people. And if you've invested time to find the right people and you put trust in those people to help you build your business, then trust them to help you get out of this position, right? So rationalizing HR budgets, however, is not a bad idea. Rationalizing HR budgets with or without COVID is a good practice to get into. Looking at your HR budgets every quarter to see where there is real value in your HR and where the costs are inflated with respect to your HR budget versus not. Make those adjustments, but it's very different from blanket firing a lot of people. Many things people in Pakistan don't focus on, especially SMEs and startups, even large businesses, is using tools and innovative technology to save time and money, right? Time and money saves a lot of cost for a business. So what do I mean by that? In Pakistan, you see small startups with 2, 3, 4 people accounting teams, or large businesses with 20, 30 people accounting teams. They're just doing debit credit transactions and doing your finance department. It's not even very complicated. All of this can be solved with the QuickBooks. This saves time, money. And similarly, like QuickBooks, there's other HR tools, communication tools, collaboration, project monitoring tools that allow you visibility, give you that data at the click of a button, help you monitor your business metrics, help you see your conversions, and all of them are a fraction of any other of any large system you can put into place because they're usually done on a user license level and they're pretty affordable. There's a lot of affordable solutions out there, and a lot of them give you free versions to try out if you're a startup. There's a lot of incentives out there for people to use. Cloud computing is a great example of that, right? About everybody, I think, now in the Pakistan ecosystem knows Amazon is great at giving you credits. So use these tools and use these opportunities in terms of technology and innovation that can make it cheaper to run certain functions, that can make it easier to run certain functions, right? There's many functions out there that allow easy payments for customers, that remind customers on when their payments due, that help the customer realize that there's an incentive on the other side if they pay on time. This can all be automated. You don't need a physical person to do the reminding of that, which again reduces the burden on your collections department if you've got it. So focus on costs. If you do all of what I mentioned earlier, then all of the above allows you to assess those costs. And then through a process of elimination and assessment and understanding what's important for your business, you eliminate the unnecessary recurring expenses, which can creep up in large and small businesses. And these recurring expenses, if you don't really focus on your business, can always stay underlying in your business and actually over a year take a significant chunk which could have been diverted towards a more impactful area to your business, or an area that could help you raise or increase your revenue. So that's kind of my last point in regards to focus areas and things to consider when trying to extend your runway. But of course, business is more than just that, right? Business is about having a clear strategy and looking at core areas and driving those core areas with metrics and plans and structures. So a structure we use at Kaizen for a lot of our clients focuses on this model that you see in front of you, where based on leadership and culture, which is kind of the essence and the soul of the organization, finance and growth, operations and scale, and people and performance, which is the body of your organization and what helps you, no matter what size you are, drive various facets of that business. And then all of that is encompassed by technology and innovation, which is the enabler of your business to grow faster, to be leaner, to see success, be it during COVID or on the other side. So this is something we use with all of our clients. This is a structure that's broken down into a strategic exercise, which allows founders to really look at their business. It allows them to look at each of these factors in relation to their business, where they are today, what their budgets or their or the size of their business allows them to really undertake as cost-driven initiatives versus non-cost-driven initiatives. But it helps them look at their business and plan accordingly on a quarter-by-quarter basis with targets in front of them to help them understand what they could do better in each of these areas. This is something I recently came across living in the UAE, and it's a quote from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, which is, "True excellence does not come from being superior to others, but means surpassing oneself time." And that's why the whole premise and kind of the theme behind my presentation today has been looking inwards into yourself as a founder and into your business, right? Only through looking inwards and really studying yourself inwards and looking to beat what you see is what's going to continue to help you be successful in the future. So that's my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed that. There were some and take away from that. If anyone would like to get in touch for any other reason, be it mentoring sessions or discussing how they can engage with any of the
So, right. No.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there's probably Khizr wanted you to ask that you must talk about the ticket size difference in investors in Pakistan and international investors in your talk. So probably the ticket size, I think so. It's quite known that Pakistani market has a different ticket size.
So ticket size, you mean in reference to yeah? So I mean, I think this is so. If anyone has any questions, I think this is a good time for just you can just shoot any question, to be honest, because his question is more related to.
Waleed, you want to ask something?
Yeah. Hello, Ali. Waleed here. Basically, a good presentation in a very candid discussion, I must say. Thank you very much for the insights. I just wanted to ask, how do you basically decide when to put in money, more of your money into your startup? Let's say one of the startups that I am currently involved with had a runway till next year. But due to COVID and all of these things happening, some of our revenue streams got slashed by 60%. and our investment just went away because we will not be able to meet the KPIs by June 30th, 2020. Okay, so our runway is slashed by, let's say, 9 to 12 months. So currently the runway would be around August 2020. After August 2020, we don't know whether there would be another wave of COVID-19. The world is completely a different place post-COVID. The investors are currently looking at market. It's not like a 2008 financial crisis where people were doing mergers and acquisitions. There were consolidation. There's an uncertainty this time because of the collapse in healthcare system, and it's a global pandemic. So I just want to ask, how do you assess whether your startup or any other startup having a runway till August will survive after August? Do you need pivoting? If you need pivoting, you require capital for it. You cannot raise investment for that capital injection, so you will have to put in your personal money. One question is this. The other thing is it the right sector to be putting your money in? Or just completely, if there are no liabilities on the startup, just completely shut your startup down, pay off all your salaries and all of that, and just start something new, which is more in line with post-COVID world. Hello?
I think so. Ali, can you hear us? Pause. I think so. He may join us again. The connection issue.
Yeah, Ali,
Ali,
did
can
you
you
get
hear
my
us?
question? Yeah.
Hi, I can hear you.
Okay, so did you get my question completely?
Yes, I got the first question. The second question got cut off.
Okay. So the second question was, how do you align your startup and how do you make sure it is the right sector to invest in and will survive in a post-COVID world?
Mm-hmm.
So these are my two questions interlinked.
Okay, so first, if you don't mind, let me answer Kizer's question about the ticket size.
Sure.
I'm not sure what he meant. Asfar, could you just repeat what he meant with the question? Because it's not
So probably he wants a brief comparison on why the ticket size. Even Pakistan is a big economy and a big country, but the ticket size here and other parts of the world is quite different. और यहाँ पे the investment size or the investors' money is actually
okay, I see what you're saying.
chota hota. The size is
So look, let's not. So let me dispel that, right? Businesses in Pakistan, startups have raised fairly big check sizes. You've seen, Bikey has raised big check sizes. Airlift has raised big check sizes. Zameen has raised amazing check sizes, right? So I don't think it's not possible to raise a large check in Pakistan. It is. The problem is no one's going to write you a large check if you aren't, as a business, on that path of growth that you need a large check. There aren't enough growth stage opportunities in Pakistan right now that justify a large check. And when it comes to valuations, the valuation makes a big difference too, right? I mean, if your valuation is driven by the value of, so what about your customer's ticket size, right? The value that your customer is willing to pay for a service in dollar terms is very little compared to the value someone is willing to pay in dollar terms in another country just in the region. So what someone will pay for the same service in Saudi Arabia or the UAE will be much more than the same service someone will pay for in Pakistan as a Pakistani. And that is also further impacted by the rupee. So as founders, many times Pakistani founders say, they're looking for valuation in dollars, but the reality is the revenue is coming in rupees. If the rupee to the dollar has gone from 154 to 166 in 1 week, how can you expect your valuation in dollar terms to rise by the same, by that standard, right? It just can't. So first, it's understanding that there is a currency risk that you have in Pakistan. There's that fact that you earn in rupees and people pay less in rupees for what you are selling versus anywhere else in the world that they pay for in dollars. All of this impacts your valuation. Now, if your valuation based on your revenue in rupees and everything else, your basket size and everything else brings you to a $5 million valuation, how will you raise $5 million if your company is valued at $5 million? Then you'll give 100% of your company away. So first, businesses need to gain enough traction and get to a growth stage and actually show that even if their basket size is small, they have millions of customers, which increase their valuation. Only then can someone justify investing a larger ticket without destroying the equity structure of that business completely. Because don't forget, investors that invest large ticket sizes, and especially venture capital funds, they need to take their money out of the business and someone else needs to come in. So there needs to be enough space for that to happen. So I wouldn't say the ticket sizes are small because the investors are putting small ticket sizes. I would say the ticket sizes are small because the opportunities are small and we haven't reached a stage in our ecosystem where there's enough large opportunities out there. And hence, there's many smaller opportunities out there and the ticket size reflects that there's a lot of $100 to $150, $200,000 checks available. That those are available. If you can build a decent business case and you have a model and you have a proposition and you've got a plan and you're a good founder, people will write you that check. But it's difficult to raise the next check. So you need to be able to raise. I personally am of the opinion that raising 100,000 in Pakistan doesn't get you anywhere, because what people kind of fail to realize is 100,000, in my opinion, goes further in a developed country than it does in Pakistan because of the gap in availability for a lot of services that help startups and businesses grow. We end up paying out of pocket as founders for a lot of things that are taken for granted in other markets. And because of that, the cost of growth can sometimes be higher, even though the revenue coming in against that in dollar terms is lower. And that's just the state of the ecosystem that we're in, right? We're very early stage, nascent. We've seen some big checks, but really we're still at an early stage. We're an infant stage of an ecosystem right now. And a lot of factors like digital payments hampers that growth, and the ease of opening bank accounts, and the ease of transactioning online. We don't even have P2P payments between customers. I can't even send you money on it through a mobile app right now, right? Without actually having to sign into my phone banking account and so on and so forth. So all of these make a difference to how that ecosystem grows. And I think ticket sizes will grow in Pakistan, but it's just too early right now. And if you are an opportunity that is raised $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, you've shown that you can acquire 2 million downloads really quickly and that you have 300,000 active users sticky onto your platform at a minimum, and they're constantly engaged with your platform and they're transacting on your platform and creating value. I'm sure there's investors both in Pakistan as well as locally, and I'm happy to introduce you to those investors if you can't connect with them, that are willing to write you a larger check. So that's my statement on Kizer's question about the ticket sizes. To Waleed's question, Waleed, I'd say to you, man, it depends on your business. This is a great time to rationalize whether what you're doing as a business can work or can't work. Because the reality is we are going to a new normal out after Corona and COVID. And what that new normal means, nobody really knows. But if your business is burning cash without any real clear proposition, only reinvest or put more money into the business, either personally or in the form of a convertible debt structure with a potential investor so that he's got ability to get his money back, but also an upside on the next round and so on. If you as a founder in this business have ultimate conviction that there's a clear path to profitability and you getting out of this and returning that investor's money back, because if that's not there, even for you as a founder, and you're not sure, then maybe it's time to reevaluate, because do you want to spend more money that might never come back? And all the points I mentioned today in my presentation are factors that if you really think about properly will help you answer that question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
So Raza has a question. Raza, I think so is with us. Raza ka mic kholta hai, Raza baat karna bhi chahe, so that's fine too. But Raza has a question. The main issue right now is that no one knows which projects are going to sign again, since due to cost cutting, many customer companies might have a chance to drop the projects or defer it for indefinite period. it also affects the retaining the team strategy.
Okay, so when you're talking, if you can just ask Raza, or you can type it out.
Raza, can you open the mic? Yes. Raza का mic खोल दीजिए.
Hello, Sir.
Hello.
And all the participants.
Ji, Raza, when you saying projects, when you saying what projects are going to assign again, what do you mean by that?
Means that currently teams are working on the projects, but there are other projects in the pipeline. ठीक है. अब now the situation is that कि we don't know कि अभी जो projects हमें assign हुए हैं या जो pipeline में उनमें से कौन से projects जो हैं उनको हम किस तरह से strategy plan करें. Like कि हम ahead जो है वो 1 साल का complete plan अपना plan कर लेते हैं चीज़ें. और इस वक्त जो projects final stages पे it's okay. People are working on it, but the projects जो कि हमें शुरू करने थे after Ramadan, let's suppose, उन projects की timelines जो है वो इतने delay नहीं होंगी, तो उसको देखना है कि किस तरह से, तो उसमें आपके क्या suggestions हैं?
हाँ, तो उसमें भी I would suggest the same thing, right? At the end of the day, look, I'm not going to lie to you when it comes to people having to drop projects or to let teams go because it just makes no business sense. I'm not going to say you keep people on if it doesn't make any business sense, right? If it comes to running people's households, I'm a firm believer there's a difference between business and charity. There's a conversation that we were having yesterday about a particular business that had laid off certain staff, and I happened to know the owner, and I happened to know that the owner had done a very thorough exercise internally to know that this excess staff was a burden on his bill, which would end up endangering him firing most of the people in 3 months versus a small amount of people right now. And he realized that there was surplus to his requirements, and he realized that he had actually done this exercise internally to know that, look, there's no other avenue. I have to let these people go. So if you have to let them go, you have to let them go, because in some cases it can mean the survival of your business, right? So in that situation, if the project doesn't make sense in a COVID-19 world, or is not going to make sense in a post-COVID-19 world, if you don't see value being generated in the activity or the project, and you've got people in place and you've spent time and money bringing it up to this point, but guess what? It's just going to lose you money moving forward. There's no point in even planning for that, right? It's now a time to do what a part of what I said in my presentation, which is look internally, look at your plans, reassess your plans, have a clear strategy, function to function, department to department, literally go down to that level and see on an activity or planned level, what were you going to do? And is it worth doing now? And if it is worth doing, how can it be done better? If it's not worth doing, what else can you do? And to actually go back to that drawing board and figure it out. That's required whether you're a project, whether you're a business, whether you're a startup, whether you're a large company, whether you're an investor who's looking at investment and that's his own portfolio. A lot of investors, and I had this chat with some of them in the region, they're going to be a lot of write-offs on their investments in this year, right? Because a lot of them are cash-heavy businesses. They're looking at their portfolios and they're actually determining, if I've invested money in 10 companies, which are the 3 or 4 companies that are worth me putting more money in to help them survive? Which are the companies that can potentially get some money in, 1 or 2 to help them survive? Which are the 3 or 4 which I've just invested in, which we're never going to scale, which cannot in this environment raise the capital required to be able to get to the valuation that we thought it would get to and to get an exit. And therefore, they're going to write off those investments, right? So that rationalization is even happening on parts of investors. So if the investors are doing that with their own investment portfolio, I think it's important for businesses and founders and startups to do that with their own companies, especially when it comes to initiatives that they're taking, because each initiative comes with a cost.
Do we have other questions from the audience? एक क्वेश्चन मैं भी कर लेता हूँ साथ साथ समीर से. So Samir, there are opportunities coming into the ecosystem, but most of these opportunities are from the grant giving organizations like Ignite, HEC, and then some other like World Bank even for Pakistan. So मुझे सिर्फ इसमें से ये जानना था कि जिन एरियाज में है वो अगर उसमें एकेडमिक कोलैबोरेशन चाहिए हो तो वो बड़ा एक डिफिकल्ट प्रोसेस होता है, यू नो दैट, कि वो यूनिवर्सिटीज के साथ मिलके प्रोजेक्ट करना. सो हाउ कंपनीज या जो स्टार्टअप्स हैं जो हेल्थ केयर में भी हैं, how can they make the best use of these opportunities which might not be the classical VC opportunity, VC के थ्रू नहीं आ रही हैं but grant giving organization से आ रही हैं. उनको किस तरह should they really come up with a plan with the academia, or they should focus now on more on consolidating their business and not on grants? मतलब उनके choice grant seeking में हो इस वक्त, या मुश्किल हो जाएगी ये टाइम में ग्रांट्स को पूरा करना और वो एकेडमिक पूरा चल. सो ग्रांट अपॉर्चुनिटीज के लिए क्या आपकी क्या थिंकिंग है for these startups?
That's a good question. As far as so I have 2 main points related to that. And obviously coming from a world where we used to give grants and apply for grants and take grants all the time. So I have 2 points, right? If you're a startup. If you're a startup which has a clear proposition for your business and knows where you're going and you have a plan and you know what you want to do and why you created this business in the first place and what problem it's solving and how you think this problem can be solved and your business can grow to exponential heights, only apply for a grant if the grant fits what you're trying to do on that path. If it doesn't, don't apply for it. It's not worth the time, effort, and money to maybe get it and maybe not get it if it does not completely 100% align with your objectives as a company that's trying to solve a problem. That's point number 1. Point number 2, if you're not a startup and there's a grant opportunity and you're thinking, what should I do? I've lost my job. What do I do? Maybe I should do something. That's a great opportunity to apply for a grant, because if grants are available, then it gives you an opportunity to create something new using what the grant wants to achieve through its funding as a direction that you can set for yourself. So in this situation, I'd say if you're already established, know where you want to go, how you want to go there, only apply for the grant if it directly relates to that strategy and that outcome. If you're lost your job or your startup is shut down and you're looking for the next challenge and getting a new job is difficult, creating a project that helps achieve those objectives as a grant, as a direction setting exercise to get initial early capital to do something, is a great idea. The reason why, now, so that's my first point. That's my second point. The reason why I'm saying don't apply for a grant if it's not aligned with you 100% is because grants come with conditions and restrictions. And it's also very troublesome to get a grant. It's not easy. You have to come up with a grant proposal. You have to make sure it's up to their standard. You send it to them. There's 1 process, 2 process, 4 process, 6 process, 10 process.
Some of them are on the reimbursement model as well.
And it's always on the reimbursement model, right? So there's 1 process, 50 processes to get the grant. Then it's on a reimbursable model. Then it doesn't necessarily align with 100% with you. So it's telling you to start doing this. Because guess what? If they're giving you the money, they want to achieve this. But this has nothing really to do with your direction, which is going here. So why are you going to take this? It's just going to distract you from your business. It's going to tie your hands further. The small amount of staff that you do have to focus on this side of your business will have to focus on this side because you won't get any money. You're better off just trying to figure out how you can get this loan from a bank at 4% to pay for your salaries, rather than completely changing the course of your business altogether because you wanted a grant to keep yourself sustained, right? So these are the 2 reasons or the 2 points that I'd kind of focus on for this.
We have Essen in the audience. I can see him. Essen, आपका कोई क्वेश्चन है? अगर Essen का माइक खोल दें, अगर Essen का हो. अली सज्जाद, आपका कोई क्वेश्चन हो? अजहर भी हैं, सालिक भी हैं. Any questions from you guys? Regular Khidr भी है, Khidr Kazmi भी और Khidr Ahmed. Khidr to the back. You guys can write down your question अगर कोई question है आप लोगों का. अच्छा, so Essen is appreciating your presentation. Essen, कोई question हो तो बता दें. You can ask on the mic. इन लोगों का माइक इन 3-4 का तो ओपन कर दीजिए क्योंकि जो जी Essen कैसे हैं? खैरियत से हैं?
मैं ठीक हूँ, आप बताएं. Are you
Great,
good?
great. बिल्कुल जबरदस्त. जी
Okay,
हसन,
so
do you want?
no, it's a good presentation overall, and I mean, not much question. Ali has shared his contact details. Maybe I can have a conversation with him around specifically about, he knows about my startup. So maybe I can have a conversation later on with him and see how we can move forward. But nothing specific for this forum as of now.
Hi, Hassan, how are you doing?
I'm fine. आप कैसे हैं? ठीक हैं? Lockdown में?
Actually, this is the first time I've worn a shirt in a month.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you so much for sharing your words. बड़ा अच्छा लगा आज दोबारा सुन.
Thank you.
खिजर तो आपके पुराने दोस्त हैं.
बिल्कुल. नहीं, काफी पुराने दोस्त हैं. आप भी तो पुराने दोस्त हैं.
दोस्त तो आज नहीं ऐसे भाई.
Ali का कोई question Ali से? जी sorry Samir.
Ali Sajjad had something. I think he raised his hand.
जी Ali. Ali Sajjad, आपका कोई question था या?
I guess not.
No. चलें तो फिर any other questions? Azhar, आपका कोई?
I don't think so.
हाँ, ये वो पूछ रहे, can you hear me? No Ali, we can't. आप माइक खोल लीजिए अपना. जी Ali बोलिए. Ali, we can't hear you. आप can you type or you can just speak up? Okay, you type. You're typing. ठीक है, आप type करें.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. First of all, it's a lovely, insight, wonderful insight. I just would like to ask about if you can just put some light on how the new normal would be for Pakistan, और वो जो disruption आनी है post corona की, उसमें कौन-कौन सी opportunity you are foreseeing कि बन सकती हैं. हर कोई यही बोल रहा है कि बस हर जगह सैनिटाइजर और क्या नाम है मास्क वगैरह का यूजेस ज्यादा हो जाएगा. बट
अजहर सॉरी अजहर, मैं चाहूंगा आप अपना थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड भी शेयर कर दें अली से, और वो भी बता दें जो प्रोजेक्ट आप कर रहे थे अभी जो आपने किया था, और थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड भी, ताकि अली को फिर वो उससे रिलेट भी कर. जी
अच्छा अली, अभी रिसेंटली हमने एक प्रोडक्ट कोरोना के पर्सपेक्टिव से बनाई थी मुसाफा के नाम से. वो प्रोडक्ट दुनिया भर में लोग यूज कर रहे हैं. पाकिस्तान के लिहाज से हमने बनाई थी कि आप लेट्स से कि आप उस ऐप को डाउनलोड कर लें और अपने आप को एज ए ट्रैकेबल नोटिस करवा दें कि आप ट्रैकेबल हैं. और आइडिया ये है कि 10-12 दिन बाद अगर किसी को कोरोना पॉजिटिव आता है तो वो अपने आप को मार्क कर देगा ऐप में कि मुझे कोरोना पॉजिटिव है. तो उस 10-12 दिन में वो जिन जिन लोगों से मिला था या उनसे क्लोज बाय था, उन सबको एक मैसेज जाएगा कि आपके साथ एक बंदा था जिसको कोरोना डिटेक्ट हुआ, तो काइंडली आइसोलेट योरसेल्फ और गेट टेस्टेड. तो ये एक आइडिया है जो दुनिया भर में लोग यूज कर रहे हैं फॉर स्मार्ट लॉकडाउन और टू फ्लैटन द कर्व. तो पाकिस्तान में हमने पाकिस्तान के लिए ऐसे बनाया था क्योंकि आप दूसरी ऐप नहीं यूज कर सकते बिकॉज ऑफ डेटा सिक्योरिटी. तो वो प्रोडक्ट हमारी रेडी है, हम खुद टेस्ट कर रहे हैं, 8-10 दोस्तों में चला रहे हैं, चल रही है. हमने कोशिश की थी गवर्नमेंट इसको सपोर्ट करे, लेकिन वो हो नहीं सकी. आइडिया वैसे हमारा कोई अर्निंग का नहीं था, हम जस्ट वांटेड टू हेल्प. तो वो प्रोडक्ट अभी गूगल ने और एप्पल ने एक अनाउंस की, लेकिन वो ब्लूटूथ बेस्ड है और उसमें डाटा का बहुत बड़ा इशू है. हर कोई इसको क्वेश्चन कर रहा है कि पब्लिक डाटा हो जाएगा, लोगों की ट्रैकिंग जाएगी. पाकिस्तान में मेरे ख्याल से इतना सिक्योरिटी का चक्कर नहीं है, तो वो इम्प्लीमेंट हो सकती है. बहरहाल ये प्रोडक्ट थी हमारी. तो बाकी हमारी जो बेसिक प्रोडक्ट जिसकी वजह से हम INIC में इंक्यूबेटेड हैं, वो प्रोडक्ट बेसिकली किड्स वे के नाम से है. और वो प्रोडक्ट जो है वो स्कूल ट्रांसपोर्टेशन का सोल्यूशन है, और एंड टू एंड ट्रैकिंग है बच्चों की, नोटिफिकेशंस हैं. वी आर कमिंग अप विद बेटर क्वालिटी ऑफ स्कूल ट्रांसपोर्टेशन. तो ये प्रोडक्ट है हमारी. नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज अबाउट दैट आफ्टर पोस्ट कोरोना जो न्यू नॉर्मल है जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं, न्यू नॉर्मल हाउ दैट वुड बी. न्यू नॉर्मल कैसा होगा और उसमें क्या क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज यू आर फोरसीइंग. ऑब्वियसली जब डिजास्टर होता है तो अपॉर्चुनिटीज भी आती हैं, या कौन सी अपॉर्चुनिटीज ऐसी हैं जो कि बिल्कुल ही खत्म होने के चांसेस हैं या जिनकी पॉसिबिलिटी थोड़ी कम हो जाएगी. इस पे अगर आप थोड़ी रोशनी डालें तो दैट वुड बी ग्रेट.
Thank you, Azhar. So I'll try and answer that along with Ali Sajjad's question, because it's similar about. I mean, his is more about getting back to the old ways. I think it's going to be a mix of the two. So I'll try and answer both your questions together. Firstly, I'd also say thank you for kind of taking this not-for-profit initiative of tracking. I think, as many as we can get of solutions that can help contain the spread of the virus, it's just a benefit for not just Pakistan but everybody in the world, right? As far as the new normal is concerned, nobody knows. But I have certain views, which may be right, may be wrong, I don't know. So there will be a new normal. That's a fact. But what can the new normal mean, right? The new normal can mean a totally different world, or it can mean everybody who ever takes an airline flight again in any country in the world will always travel with gloves and sanitizers and a mask, right? That could become the new normal, and that's it. Everything else could go back to normal, like the way it was. So we don't know what that equilibrium is going to settle on. But if I was to put it into a little bit of context, I'd say the longer this period of lockdown and of social distancing and self-isolation and all of these things goes on, it will force, because see, the longer it goes on, the worse it is for economy. But the quicker you open when you're not ready, the worse it is for humanity. So really it's what's right here. Because if you nosedive in so bad economically, recovering could take a long time, decades. Depends on how bad it gets. So the way I see it is, we don't know where the new normal is, but there's certain things that we can look at that may give us some sort of insight. So what does that mean? That means the longer the economy stays shut and people stay home and movement is restricted, the more it forces governments, policymakers, and businesses to find new ways to keep the world moving economically. We are already seeing the first stage of that, which is digital businesses seeing growth. Digital marketplaces, groceries at home, pharmacies at home, testing at home, tracking for COVID, who's next to you, where are they, so on and so forth. On the Google, Apple front, I'd say they're light years ahead of most startups, because you may be seeing log data security ki baat kar rahe hain. Apple always knew where you were and always knows where I am. They know what I say, and Google knows where we are. They know our body temperature. They know how fast we walk and how slow and how long we sit for. Okay, they already know that. So the concern will always be voiced, but the reality is we're so reliant on technology. It's so ingrained in our lives that we don't even know what information is being shared and monitored by the people or products we're using in the first place. And that phenomenon is not new. It's been there for years. And if anything, it's that phenomenon that's helped the Chinese contain the virus the way it did, simply because they are so far integrated with using that information and data that they were able to know who is where at what time, all hours of the day. The rest of the world isn't there, but this period will allow a lot of those governments to get into that into that Chinese state, right? Because that is how the future is moving. Now, the first step we've seen, which is, in my opinion, relates to being able to get more familiar with online transactions in Pakistan. Right? We've seen that. People who never would buy groceries online or things online are now reliant, their house runs on buying things online. Their whole approach has changed. Aunties, uncles, 45, 50-year-olds are telling me, yaar, tumne ye app dekhi hai, main button dabata hu to aa jata hai. And I've been like telling them, main aapko to 10 saal se keh raha hu, aap sunte hi nahi hai. आप कहते हैं क्वालिटी का क्या होगा, ये क्या होगा, वो क्या होगा. अब आप खुद जाके वो फल उठा नहीं सकते फ्रूट वाले से और चेक नहीं कर सकते, उसको हाथ लगा के टेस्ट नहीं कर सकते. तो आप अब ऑनलाइन आ गए तो आपको रियलाइजेशन होगी कि भाई एक चीज होती है, उसको ग्रेडिंग कहते हैं. ग्रेडिंग के हिसाब से फ्रूट और वेजिटेबल्स के अलग ग्रेड्स होती हैं. अगर आप ग्रेड के हिसाब से भी ऑर्डर कर सकते हैं, आपके घर पे वही ग्रेड आ जाएगा. राइट, सो इट्स दैट ह्यूमन consumer behavior is changing at that level. But as the economy stays off longer, what are the schools, all the schools that have created buildings and invested in buildings and taken loans against them, what are they going to do? They can't just write off, right? So they will be forced to innovate and invent a school from home experience, which would be like the classroom. Could that speed up VR, AR? Absolutely. Could that bring it into the home faster? Absolutely. Depends on how long the shutdown lasts. Medical field has already changed, right? I'm working here with a company that does home health services for the last 8-9 months, way before COVID, and now COVID has accelerated that. Why? Because everybody's like, I need a nurse at home, I have elderly parents, मुझे डॉक्टरी नहीं आती, ये ब्लड प्रेशर कैसे मॉनिटर होगा, मेडिसिन तो सही मिल रही है नहीं मिल रही है, कोरोना की कॉम्प्लिकेशन तो नहीं हो गई. People are like scared, right? So now home health services are taking on. Nurses at home, setting up virtual hospitals to monitor you at home if you're a risk patient, which is coupled then with the tracking solution that you mentioned, which is coupled with the government having access to that information. And you're basically now integrating all human activity digitally, which will, I think, become the second stage, depending on how long this lasts. And part of that second stage is payments, right? Right now, it's like, oh, cash on delivery. Okay, yaar, I need to go out and get cash. To cash khatam ho gaya. ठीक है, लेकिन आप बैंक बंद है और ATM भी बंद है, तो फिर आप कैसे लेंगे cash? नहीं ले सकते. So you go to cash, it's pushing you towards a cashless society. But you can't just be cashless if only 2 million out of 200 million people have a credit card or a bank account, right? Which means your mobile wallets have to become more integrated and effective and be able to be accepted everywhere. Which means you should be able to learn to pay with your mobile credit top-up balance in any transaction that you want anywhere, as long as it's a digital transaction bringing something to your house. It means opening an account will become easier. If I can take a biometric, if I get a new SIM card from Ufone, right? So Ufone isn't even the dominant telco player in Pakistan. It's not. But if Ufone can send me a new SIM on a phone, I say, naya SIM bhej dena. And the guy sends me a new SIM, and to verify my biometrics and register my biometrics against that SIM, he sends a guy with a biometric device to my home. What stops the bank from doing that with the sanitizer bottle, and you sanitize and you do your biometric and you sign your documents and he goes back, and guess what? Within the same day, your bank account's open. Nothing actually stops them from doing that. So the longer we stay shut, the more innovation happens in these spaces. And in Pakistan, you're forced, because your country can't stay shut. The longer you stay shut, the worse it is for you. You're forced to then accelerate the change in banking, in financial services, in access to medicines, in pharmaceuticals, in education, which are really the core, right? What are the core building blocks of or necessities in human life? It's food, healthcare, education, and ability to pay for the three. Right? These are the 4 critical components that determine human life. It's what most people spend most of their paychecks on. So how is that going to change? Will determine the new normal. And in every country, it will be slightly different depending on how long this problem lasts and how quickly that country was, or how far advanced it was in already evolving in these sectors. So I think that will determine the new normal. A lot of people will come out of it thinking, the economy, my productivity for my teams actually went up when they were working from home. My impact on revenue decreased, but that's because the markets were shut everywhere. Because there's so much reliance on the physical still, and not all is digital, that it impacted my business. But really, the productivity of my team went up. They spent more time on my internal network and VPN. There was more collaboration and coordination between teams working on Zoom and Microsoft Teams and so on and so forth. A lot of new innovative ideas and projects and solutions came out of us working from home, which never would have happened if you were sitting at the office, just sitting there wasting time. Ki boss mujhe dekh raha hai, lekin asal mein koi kaam nahi ho raha. So a lot of people are going to come out of this thinking, yeah, that's a better way of working. It's more efficient. And a lot of countries had done this a long time ago. I met some guy who 2 months ago who told me that he's been work from home for 8 years at a tech company in Europe. No problem. And he's not a developer. He's a business development and partnerships person, right? But he's never had to show face at the office. Everything is connected through a CRM. They know where he's going. His meetings are recorded. He's always plugged into the network. So a lot of countries like Pakistan are going to see that for the first time. And I think when we come out of that, there are going to be certain industries that are for sure, I think, going to have traction. EdTech, I think, is definitely going to take traction. I think risk mitigation and healthcare prevention is going to take huge traction. I think virtual healthcare, virtual home or hospitals are going to see huge growth, right? More so than, I mean, you'll see telehealth also grow, but really I think virtual hospitals and at home doctor visits will grow more because people still like to see a doctor rather than see a screen. I don't think that human interaction is going to change overnight. It's going to take years before that happens. But I think we're going to head in that direction, right? I think we're going to see e-government grow. I think we're going to see fintech completely transform. These are the industries that I think are going to transform and grow, which is going to help shape the new normal. So I hope that kind of spiel made sense. And that's kind of how I think the new normal will be defined.
Any other questions? We'll conclude in like 5 minutes. Or Ali, koi last parting note to ऐसी चीज, how to. I know it's such a difficult situation that no one can predict what will happen like in a month's time or in 2 months' time. So it's such an ever-changing and so जल्दी चीजें change हो रही हैं कि स्टार्टअप्स के लिए कोई ऐसे टिप्स हों कि जो काइंड ऑफ इंश्योरिंग कि ये इनकी जो प्रोडक्ट सेंट्रिक स्टार्टअप्स हैं कि वो क्या करें और बेटर मैनेजमेंट ऑफ देयर प्रॉब्ली देयर कैश फ्लोज जो मेरे ख्याल से वर्क फ्रॉम होम में हो रहे हैं, कॉस्ट तो कम हो रही है. कुछ आप पार्टिंग नोट अगर बता सकें क्योंकि आई डोंट थिंक सो वी हैव अदर क्वेश्चंस.
So yeah, as for my parting notes, very simple. All the points I mentioned are, if you put all of them in context of your startup and actually do thorough exercises on those points, you will find yourself in a better position to extend your runway and actually help your startup become more efficient and realize what you need and what you don't really need, right? What's a nice to have versus what's a necessity. As far as predicting what's going to happen, you're absolutely right. Nobody can predict what's going to happen. But do I think the world's going to come to an end? No, I really don't think the world's going to come to an end. I think sooner rather than later there'll be a vaccine. I think sooner rather than later there'll be trials. I think sooner rather than later we will define our social norms again, or redefine them rather. And once we redefine our social norms and our method of working and operating our businesses changes, it'll all change for the better because it'll all force us to grow. And by grow, I don't necessarily mean grow in terms of revenue, but grow in terms of oneself, right? I mean, humans are best when they come out of adversity because they become stronger, they're more resilient, they become better. And I think that is the key takeaway of the period we find ourselves in. My parting note, I guess, on this all would be don't lose hope. Stay positive. I think a positive mindset does a lot for you in facing adversity and challenges. Inshallah, all will be all right. But in remaining positive, don't lose focus. Stay the course. If you deem or determine through really doing a proper exercise that the course is something you want to and have the appetite to stick to, and that you have conviction that will take you through to the other side and be successful. This is a great time to reevaluate one's life. It's a great time to reevaluate one's relationships with family as well as colleagues and professionals and friends. It's a great time to reevaluate oneself and the purpose of their life and where they're going with it. So in the spirit of that reevaluation, I think staying positive is a very critical component. And if you come out of this with that approach and that attitude, thinking that great idea on a startup, but actually that's not for me, I want to do something else, that's okay. That's totally fine. I've worked on startups that have failed and bombed and you've had to walk away from, and projects that I've walked away from. It happens all the time. It's not something new, but the key criteria is be positive, evaluate, reevaluate, and think forward. Other than that, anything?
I think you can, if you can share your last slides so that your contact. Yes.
Yeah. So you have my contact details, right? So you can feel free to share them with anybody across NIC, and hopefully we'll do another session on equity structures and maybe see how we can help people think through some of those things.
Wonderful. Chalo, great. So coming to Pakistan anytime soon? Yeah, abhi bas UAE
I
mein
was
abhi.
supposed to come twice already actually, but I can't move.
Oh,
I
wow.
can't travel. I can't leave the house actually. So, it's there's some very good measures taken by the UAE government, very strict measures. But it's in times like this you have to be strict. You're allowed to leave the house, but for medical or grocery related purposes, there's a very good clean structure in place. You have to apply for a
So
permit and so on and so
it
forth.
is a smart lockdown there.
Yeah.
It is a very smart lockdown in UAE.
Yeah,
Smarter
it's a
than
smart
Pakistan.
lockdown because you can leave because there's penalties, right? There's serious penalties for you if you break the protocol. The protocol is in place. You apply for the permit. It's online. You get the permit. You carry it with you. You go for your purpose that you've applied for, and you come back to your house. Simple. Your permit is rejected. You can't leave the house.
Wow.
You leave the house without a permit. You're fined. It's clean and clear, right? You know what you can do and you know what you can't do, and it's for the greater good. I think measures like this are tougher to implement in Pakistan, obviously, because the population size is much larger. There are varying degrees of income brackets, so on and so forth. But each country has its own challenge, and we have to deal with it accordingly.
That's great. Thank you, Ali. Thank you for your time.
Thank
you for the help, and thank you for mentoring and
pleasure.
helping the startups as always. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So that's it today. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, Allah.
Thank you.